But I'm not going to change my personality. Ain't nobody, they can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. So they can't fire me.
I can tell you, I also spoke. As co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously.
Charles Barkley is challenging the norms at ESPN, and Shannon Sharpe isn't staying silent. While Barkley flexes a $210 million contract and calls his own shots, refusing extra appearances and daring the network to let him go, Shannon watches from the sidelines after being cut amid a controversy. As expected, he's frustrated, publicly questioning why ESPN hasn't taken the same stance with Barkley. On top of that, Shannon's facing legal troubles, morality clauses, and increased scrutiny from his superiors. Meanwhile, Barkley is unfazed, reminding Shannon and everyone else of the reality of their positions. What's really happening behind closed doors? Why is Charles seemingly untouchable while Shannon was let go? Let's dig into it. Recently, Barkley appeared on Outkick's Don't At Me with Dan Dakich and made some bold remarks about his role at ESPN. He essentially told the network that he won't be talking about the Lakers even if they're paying him. Charles is determined to speak freely, leaving ESPN with two choices: accept it or walk away.
2 different radio national shows, and I said, I don't want to talk about LeBron James every freaking day, or Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers or all the bullshit you got to talk about. I don't want to do that every day. Now you're going to ESPN, and you've been critical of ESPN, particularly their coverage of the Lakers. What are your thoughts as this is your last season heading over?
Yeah, Dan, I'm not going to change. I'm going to do what I want to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to say or what to do. I thought I get upset. They're like the Lakers are contenders. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not contenders. Kendrick Perkins, who don't know his ass from a hole in the wall. He's like, the Lakers are contenders. Lakers are contenders, and I said, they're not contenders.
Most in Barkley's position would toe the company line to stay in management's good graces. But not Charles. He's not worried about job security. And that's because ESPN can't afford to lose him. If there's a clear winner here, it's Barkley, and he's fully aware of it. He stated, ain't nobody that can't fire me. I make too much money, so they can't fire me. First off, if they do, they'd still have to pay me for 7 years, and I plan on quitting way before then. But if they decide to let me go, I'd welcome that. The only thing we're discussing now is how long I plan to stick around. I'm not concerned about being fired, and nobody at ESPN is going to dictate what I say or do. That's final. Barkley signed a 10-year, $210 million deal in 2022 to work as an analyst on one of the most prominent basketball pregame and postgame shows.
But for me personally, I wanted you guys to hear from me, because I'm not doing any more interviews. Don't y'all be calling me. Nobody calling me. I'm not talking about this again, but I want to tell my NBA and NBA TV and TNT family that I'm not going to another network, but I'm going to pass the baton to either Jamal Crawford or Vince Carter or you, Steve. But next year, I'm going to just retire after 25 years, and I just want to say thank you.
And with contracts like these, the full amount is typically guaranteed. So if Charles pushes boundaries, ESPN would still be on the hook for the entire sum. That's not a position they want to be in. What complicates matters further is Barkley's lack of interest in working deep into retirement age.
Charles Barkley has reportedly agreed to a 10-year deal with TNT that's estimated to be worth over $100 million. Let's be honest, Barkley is arguably one of the most popular sports studio analysts out there, and he's in a landscape where salaries for sportscasters have just changed dramatically over the years. And if TNT were to let him go, it'd just be terrible, just terrible.
He's aiming for retirement, unlike peers like Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharpe, who are still chasing opportunities. When their deals end, they're hoping for renewals, which means they can't afford to upset the higher-ups. Barkley, on the other hand, stunned many earlier this year on NBA TV when he said, I'm not going anywhere other than TNT, but I've made up my mind next year will be my last on TV. And no, this isn't a negotiation tactic. He's had conversations with other networks, but he's made it clear he's not signing with any of them.
You know, there's been a lot of noise around our network the last few months. And I just want to say, I've talked to all the other networks, but I ain't going nowhere.
So
At this
he doesn't
point,
have.
Barkley has nothing to lose. And during his recent appearance on Outkick, his perspective remained unchanged. He shared that he's been in discussions with the network about how long he plans to stay. Technically, there are still 7 years remaining on his contract, but Barkley made it clear he has no intention of seeing the deal through to the end.
The only decision we've been making is how long I'm on work. And I've been going back and forth with TNT for the last 2 months, whether I'm gonna work 2 years or 3 years. But if I really wanted to, I could stay for 7 years, which there's no chance of that happening. Zero.
It's important to note, if ESPN chooses to terminate his contract early, they'll still be responsible for paying out the full amount. On top of that, Barkley stated that he has no interest in appearing on shows like Get Up, First Take, SportsCenter, or any other ESPN programs once he transitions over. Realistically, that shift was expected. ESPN is set to take over inside the NBA next season since TNT Sports lost the NBA broadcast rights, meaning Barkley will move to ESPN. Naturally, the network will want to maximize its investment and have him appear across multiple shows. But Barkley isn't on board, and he's been upfront about that. He doesn't want the additional workload. Adding to that, he's not thrilled about sharing airtime with personalities like Stephen A. Smith or Kendrick Perkins. In fact, Barkley previously remarked that Perkins can't tell the difference between a hole in the wall and his own backside, clear sign that any collaboration between the two is unlikely. In short, Barkley's a challenge for ESPN. He's testing boundaries and getting away with it if anyone's particularly frustrated by all this. It's Shannon Sharpe. After all, this is the same network that let him go over a lawsuit, so it's no surprise he has strong feelings about Barkley's treatment. Rumor has it Shannon had a few words to say about the situation, but before he points fingers, he needs to understand that he and Barkley are operating from very different positions. For one, Sharpe doesn't have the same draw. According to the New York Times, ESPN may be paying him $6.5 million annually to debate Stephen A. Smith twice a week on First Take, but that doesn't make him indispensable, especially not when dealing with a public legal dispute involving a woman barely past the legal drinking age, and it's not solely about popularity. Disney has always approached business cautiously. To protect themselves when signing talent, they rely on a morality clause in their contracts. A Disney morality clause is a standard provision that allows the company to terminate or discipline an employee if their behavior reflects poorly on the brand or causes reputational harm. The language used in these clauses, phrases like public disrepute, humiliation, or scandal, is deliberately vague. This gives Disney the flexibility to act quickly, as they did with Shannon. While some might argue he was treated unfairly, the reality is he made a serious error in judgment. Disney didn't act on impulse. Sharpe, at 56 years old, was involved with a 19-year-old woman. Given his experience in the spotlight, someone on his team should have advised better, perhaps even suggested a non-disclosure agreement, especially after last year's viral Instagram moment when the internet essentially ended up in his bedroom. You'd expect more caution, but that wasn't the case. Let's be honest, Disney isn't exactly known for making careless mistakes like this. So naturally, they addressed the issue quickly, and it seems like the decision is final. According to one insider, Shannon Sharpe may already be banned from the network. Another source added, there are rumors suggesting that Shannon Sharpe's time at ESPN is over. I reached out to someone close to ESPN production, and they confirmed he's still scheduled for First Take on Mondays and Tuesdays. That means on the other weekdays, his absence is just part of the regular schedule. And it appears these insider reports carry weight, especially since Stephen A. Smith acknowledged having a conversation with Disney's CEO, who was reportedly treating Sharpe's controversy with serious concern.
I can tell you, I also spoke to co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously, and we are looking into this very, very closely.
Now, Shannon may resent the network for how things unfolded, but to be fair, he wasn't exactly winning over colleagues. Before his $50 million legal dispute, there were allegations that he physically assaulted a female production assistant at Fox Sports. The reported incident happened while he was co-hosting Undisputed between 2016 and 2023. Interestingly, Fox didn't terminate him instead. They reached a private settlement with the accuser for several $100,000, a representative for Sharpe denied the claims outright, stating there was no choking incident on the FS1 set. According to them, what occurred was a minor, playful physical exchange among a few staff members. Fox chose to handle the matter discreetly. For more specifics, they suggested reaching out to the company directly. Still, longtime fans tend to take these official denials with skepticism. And yes, many were surprised Fox didn't cut ties with him back then. But that's often how things work in the industry. Technically, Disney and ESPN could have also kept him despite the legal situation. But doing so would have likely triggered backlash. In fact, former SportsCenter anchor Sage Steele had sharp words about how the company handled it before Sharpe exited. She shared her frustration on X, saying, "There's a long list of cases where ESPN or Disney considers conservative views a bigger offense than questionable character." She was responding to a post claiming ESPN dropped women for holding conservative beliefs while allowing Sharpe, who's been involved in multiple controversies with women, to stay on air. Former ESPN staffer Ashley Brewer Kaminsky also weighed in. "I still remember getting scolded by my boss for sharing a photo with a Republican congressman and a UFC fighter at a McGregor fight on my story. Lol." The network enforces a strict no politics policy on air. Steele herself was suspended for speaking out against the company's COVID-19 vaccine mandate. In comparison, Shannon's case seemed far more serious. Had Disney kept him around, they'd have risked opening the door to legal trouble, possibly facing wrongful termination suits from past employees. So in many ways, letting Shannon go was a smart move for both Disney and ESPN. Meanwhile, Barkley doesn't bring that kind of baggage. Sure, he's pushing back on retirement talks and challenging the status quo, but compared to Shannon, he's been manageable. Simply put, Barkley is valuable. Shannon isn't. That's why even Stephen A. Smith, who had always supported Sharpe, wasn't shocked by the network's decision. He said when the news broke that he and ESPN agreed he would step away from the airwaves, it hurt. It hurt the show, and it hurt me personally because I'll miss him. But it wasn't surprising. This is Disney. I've been part of the company since 2003. I understand how ESPN, the worldwide leader, operates. At the end of the day, Barkley is playing by his own rules and getting away with it. Shannon might be upset about the double standard, but before he does anything he'll regret, he needs to take a hard look at the choices that got him here. He wasn't treated unfairly, he just faced the consequences of his actions. But what do you think? Is Shannon right to be angry? Will he take it out on the network or on Charles? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to watch the next video.